So I just finished watching Ex Machina. I know, I'm a little late to the party. This movie came out a while ago. I just got it on Redbox, so watched it tonight because I've been meaning to catch it. And I don't make a lot of movie review type videos because I think there's plenty of people doing it on the internet already, and I don't know that that's necessarily where my expertise lies in terms of critiquing things. But when movies come out that really strike me either in a positive way or in a really negative way, I just want to share my thoughts on them and just draw attention to them in case someone who watches this hasn't seen one of these films. So I did one a while back on Mad Max because I thought that was a film that was definitely worth talking about, even though everyone at the time was already talking about it. Ex Machina is another case where it already got a lot of publicity. A lot of people have heard about it. And I just wanted to add my 2 cents to that equation, just if it's extra encouragement to go see the movie. Pick it up, whether it comes to Netflix or Redbox or, you go buy it, whatever it might be. I think it's definitely worth watching. And that's for a few reasons. One, it's just a really well-made movie. Kind of everything about it, from the acting to the writing, the directing, the cinematography, sound design, everything about this film is pretty much spot on. There's not anything that I would really critique it for being negative, but a lot of movies come out and they're usually, most of them are well made and well acted and well written, but Ex Machina is a little special just for, I think, for the more independent artists, the people who are looking to either make films on their own or, do something that's more lower budget. Because even though this film, the budget for this film was around 11 million euros. That's what IMDb estimates it at. I don't know 100%. I have no behind the scenes information other than what IMDb says, but 11 million euros is what this film's estimated is costing. And I believe it. It's only got a few locations, minimal cast, lots of special effects that are actually pretty breathtaking. If you've seen the trailers, you've got an idea of what the film looks like already. So there's not much to say there other than it lives up. Like, the whole thing is just pretty much, it's one of the best examples I can think of using digital CGI type effects, but actually using them for a purpose, for a reason that helps convey and add to the story rather than just throwing it in. Compared that with Mad Max, which was mostly practical, and then they amplified with some digital shots. This is a little bit more relying on the digital because of the kind of robotic nature of one of the characters. You kind of have to, it's stylized, it's science fiction, but I thought it was really well done and really subtle. And it's obvious, but it does nothing that draws attention to it as being like overly fake or overly digital. It feels very organic, which I really liked. But anyways, getting back to talking about budget and the fact that this is a more independent, lower budget kind of thing, directed and written by Alex Garland, who I think did a fantastic job both on the script. The script is really, really smart. There were many times during the film where I was watching it, and you have those internal questions that when you're watching something, you're kind of asking, why don't they do this, or what about this, and almost every time I had a thought like that, something happened in the film to address it. And I'm not going to give anything away. There's no spoilers here. But it was just really, really interesting to see something that was that smart and that clever, that always had a response to the internal questions that were, as a viewer, you naturally have, because you're probably trying to pick apart the movie a little bit, or we're used to seeing characters on screen do stupid things, or kind of living in that movie land where it's not real life. But there was always something in the script that addressed it, and I really appreciated that. There was only one moment maybe where I thought it was a little bit forced in terms of how the characters, their interactions play out, but everything else I thought worked really well. And while it might look like it from the trailers and maybe some of the buzz around it, that this is kind of a, maybe that's not even fair. Maybe it's just every movie nowadays feels like it needs some kind of twist, or kind of like, that's, more than meets the eye at the end of the film. And this movie kind of has that, but I was really pleased to see that it just kind of played out, not in a surprising, like shocking revelation twist at the end, like gotcha, but it just kind of played out like it should have. Which is why I really like this movie too, because so many movies like this have such an interesting, cool setup, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh, well, that wasn't a very good payoff. But Ex Machina does a great job from start to finish, being a very satisfying film, and that's what I liked most about it. Everything about it was just really satisfying, and it was so great to see that on a lower budget production, because it's that stuff that everyone always talks about. It's like story, acting, like the kind of key fundamentals of like what makes a film is what is most important. Sure, this was shot on the F-65 and it looks really great and it's got some really cool effects, but the main takeaway that this just reiterates to me and why I want to talk about it is like you can do so much with so little. If you have a really solid idea, you have a core concept that's really good, and you take the time to flesh it out, do the research. Because that's the other thing. This movie is very not science fiction in like the far distant future, but kind of based modern time, but sci-fi, and it's really smart and well researched. I'm sure it's not 100% on the science, but compared to something like Interstellar, right, which was supposedly like all based on like real science and stuff, but for me it was really watered down. Interstellar was. It was just like, yeah, you took cool scientific concepts, but you just boiled it down to like the most basic fundamental stuff that we've all seen in old movies like Event Horizon and other things like that. So I was really pleased with Ex Machina to get into some of the more philosophical science fiction elements, and it just really struck a chord with me as being the whole movie is set in like essentially one location, and there was not a second where I was bored or like, come on, let's move it on, come on, stop talking. Pacing was spot on, and everything that was happening was really interesting because, again, it's like that the storyline was so well thought out. So I can't congratulate these filmmakers enough on making such incredible film. If you haven't taken the time to see it or you've been curious, I highly recommend it. I don't think it's anything that's going to become like maybe your favorite movie ever, but it is certainly a solid film to watch, and something that I don't think anyone should really say like, that's not for me, because if you are into filmmaking any kind, this is the kind of stuff that gets me really excited. Somebody doing something with a limited budget, but making something that has such a greater impact. And this movie has gotten a lot of recognition already, a lot of publicity, and it deserves all of it.